Hey, so I'm guessing you know what frequency separation is, and you understand, maybe perhaps, that it's separating the frequencies, hence the name, right? You have a tighter texture and a broader texture, and you can separate them in two pieces and then do things in between them or modify them independently. Now, there are ways to do multi-band frequency separation, which I have actions that can do that as well. It's much more advanced, of course, and not necessarily for every single application, but it's also very powerful if you want to go that route. But when it comes to what's called image decomposition, in other words, we break our image down in a technical way, allowing us to edit it in more detail. That's image decomposition, right? And doing that, one way is frequency separation, which again, I'm guessing you're familiar with. However, there are other ways, including separating the color information from, well, not the color information, which I call chroma and luma, or the color and the luminosity. True luminosity, by the way, which I have videos on that too, that'll explain the difference between true luminosity and, let's say, brightness, right? So what does that mean that we can do a chroma luma split? Well, if you're familiar with frequency separation, I want to show you today one of my actions that creates a layer stack similar to a frequency separation layer stack, but also does a chroma luma split at the same time, creating effectively a four-way split of the frequencies and chroma and luma at the same time. Again, you might have to test and see where this works for you in a workflow, but in some cases, it's absolute gold for me. So let me show you what I'm talking about. It's called MBP median frequency separation, chroma, luma, dodge, and burn. The dodge and burn is in there. I'll show you in a minute what that means. They're just layers so you can do dodge and burn. It's a workflow stack is what I'm trying to say. The two underneath it, Gaussian and surface blur, they're simply the same thing for the frequency separation, but using a different blurring operator. So if I run this one, you get, it tells you, hey, you should start from a flattened layer and all of that. And you get kind of the normal stuff that you're told, which is, hey, we're going to use frequency separation. What radius do you want? I don't know. So I'm going to use an 8 because I haven't tested on this image, but I'm going to run an 8 and then let it finish its process. And when it finishes its process, the image is untouched. It doesn't look any different. We turn off the folder, turn it on, absolutely the same. But what it's done is decomposed it, again, with frequencies and frequencies with the threshold of a radius of 8, which we have videos on that too, but also the chroma and luma. So how's it happened? Well, if you look at the very top layer, this is the chroma layer. Hold down Alt or Option and click the eyeball, and you can see this is the color information. This is devoid of luminosity information. It's strictly the color. So it's going to be hue and saturation levels, right? That's all it is. Anything that's going to be neutral or white, obviously we get blended over in the color blend mode because that's what it's for, right? To put it back in. Now, if I turn it off, what am I looking at? Well, this is luminosity information, but the luminosity information has been split into the frequency. So if I hold down Alt or Option and click this eyeball, this is the frequency, the high frequency of the luma. You're probably familiar with how a high frequency layer looks, again, if you know frequency separation. And of course, if you go to the low layer, you'll see that it's blurred. That is the 8 pixel radius that we chose on medium to create that. So what it does is it creates the frequency separation on the luma. Why? Because all of the things that we're going to modify to the tune of 99% that we need to modify or want to modify when it comes to texture is going to be in the luminosity. That's where our texture exists. Brightness and darkness, the perception of texture, the perception of depth, right? So we pull the color on top just to protect it in many ways. We can turn it on whenever we want. We can modify it too by itself, but it's up there sort of protected while we go about our business. Now, what exactly would we do to a nature image like this? I don't honestly know because this is shot by my friend Sanjeev. I actually don't shoot nature stuff very often, so I don't know. But let's say I have the chroma information protected. These rocks, if I turn it on and off, you can see there's a lot of varying hues here, right? But let's say I want to make some changes to the rocks in some way, and I want to change the shaping or smoothing them out or something. So I might come over here and, on the luma paint layer between high and low, I might come over here and choose some kind of a color like this, some kind of luma, and reshape this rock. I'm going to put the flow a little bit faster and maybe just kind of reshape what's happening down here in this rock, knowing that I'm modifying only the textured areas. I can create a mask if I'm getting sloppy, and I can clean up the edge there any way that I need. I can make multiple layers in between high and low, standard frequency separation stuff. And as you can see, we're changing the shape of that rock. Not necessarily the shape, but the smoothness of it. If I turn on the color, okay, off and on, we can see we're smoothing the rock out, but those discolored areas kind of stick out. Couple options. We can go to a layer right on top of the color chroma, and we can take, a 10% flow, and we can take any color we want and paint and kind of make the rock all that one color. If that blue doesn't work, fine. We can come back in here. We can take the saturation down, make it more of a true gray, maybe make it more towards a warmer blue. And we can paint that. Now it's a grayish blue thing. We're replacing all of that. I don't know. Again, I can mask out if I'm getting sloppy, or if I need more accuracy, if I need to go right to the perimeters like that. And look what I've done from here to here. I've protected the texture of the rock while still reshaping it. Okay, the certain texture at the 8 radius. And then I have the chroma by itself. Now, all this can be modified. You can take the color correction that I did and make it 60% opacity. You can take that painted layer and make it also 60% opacity. I don't know. But look, I've modified the rock just like you can modify skin or clouds or clothing. Independent, luma first and then chroma second. And who knows where that can go for you in any application. Keep in mind too, you can run this, decide it looks good, and then you can just, sort of, let's say I have a copy there, we can flatten it, and then if we need to run it again, we can at a different radius, etc., etc. But this workflow stack allows you to keep everything happening kind of at once. So if we don't zoom in completely, we'll see there and there, we've reshaped that rock. I'm not saying that's a good edit, guys. My nature photographers, I want you to calm down. I'm not saying this is a good edit on the rock. I'm just showing how to control the texture and the color, right? And of course, you can make multiple layers in between high and low frequencies, like frequency separation. You can create multiple layers here on the color correction, clip down. See how this one's clipped down to the chroma? This one's also clipped down to the chroma. And no matter what you paint with that, it's going to paint with chroma. So if I choose this color, it'll overpaint with that, right? And you can make multiple layers and have different opacities, etc., etc. Can you modify the low layer directly or the high layer directly? Absolutely. Do we have a duplicate high frequency layer like we do in frequency separation commonly? Absolutely. And you can modify the chroma layer directly if you wanted to as well. So there's so many different things that you can do in terms of modifying and controlling those 4 elements, the textures, the high and the low, and the chroma and the luma. Where you take this and how you leverage it, gosh, there's so many opportunities. I've shown so many ways to do this kind of process, do this workflow for skin, because that's my main thing, it's portraits. However, it can be applied to so much more. You always need a workflow stack that separates everything like this? No. And over time, you'll figure out when you might want something simpler, when you might want simple dodge and burn, because we have dodge and burn here that you can play with at any moment. It's just curves layers, which is the way to go. And you can turn off the chroma and just dodge and burn away as you need to. Okay. But sometimes you want everything at once so you can be more efficient and, kind of attack everything that you want to fix at once. You get used to that workflow. You get, unintimidated, if you will, by this workflow stack. A lot can happen. Of course, you can tuck it away, close it, and then continue with color grading if you want on top. You can flatten, you can do whatever you need to do. However, don't be scared of the big workflow stack because it can be so powerful to do all of your decomposition at once, giving you ultimate control.